Hello guys, welcome back. We have some big trades to report on. Both Claude Giroux and Hampus Lindholm have been dealt, with Claude Giroux going to the Panthers and Hampus Lindholm going to the Bruins. Now, I don't know what they fed these NHL GMs lately, but it is something amazing. And with Hampus Lindholm and Claude Giroux being dealt, we have two huge trades to talk about before deadline day. But when it comes to both of these deals, what are the trade details that you guys need to know about, and who do I think wins these trades? Watch till the end for all the trade details and the full breakdown, and make sure you hit that subscribe button to the Sportsnet YouTube channel for the best sports coverage around. And without further ado, let's get into these insane deals. Now, the first one we're going to talk about here is Hampus Lindholm being traded to the Boston Bruins, and this was really cycling throughout this afternoon. Earlier, we had the recent reports of both the Blues and the Bruins being interested in Lindholm, and we officially saw the Bruins jump ahead of St. Louis to get the last lap, I guess, but not really the last lap for that 2018 Stanley Cup final, robbing Hampus Lindholm away from St. Louis, and a pretty major deal here. Now, when it comes to the actual trade details itself, the Boston Bruins will get Lindholm. In exchange, the Anaheim Ducks will get a pretty major haul: a 2022 first rounder, 2023 second, 2024 second, defensive prospect Urho Vakanainen, and John Moore. Now, it's important to note that with both John Moore and Hampus Lindholm, 50% retention is on their contracts, so even more picks go back to Anaheim in this deal. Now, it's important to note that with Hampus Lindholm, Boston is pretty close to making a contract extension happen, reported by Elliot Friedman, so it likely won't be just a rental for the Boston Bruins, but even if it might be, even if there's a 5% chance, I think for Boston, Hampus Lindholm fits pretty well into their system. Now, he's a left defenseman, and right now their first pairing is Mike Riley with Charlie McAvoy. I think it's pretty fair to say that we'll have Hampus Lindholm with Charlie McAvoy as the Bruins' first pairing, which I think is absolutely monstrous, but Lindholm provides quite a bit of value. In 61 games this year, Lindholm's been pretty interesting. 5 goals, 17 assists for 22 points. He's a guy, though, that defensively, that's where he makes his money. But you combine that with his great skating ability and great puck possession opportunities, he's a guy that for the Bruins, I think could almost transform that defense into a lot more of a sturdier one, a lot more of a consistent one, and eat up a lot of top pair minutes, which I think they need. Now, there was a few very interesting stats by Mike Kelly of NHL Network pointing to the value that Hampus Lindholm could bring not just this year, but with his contract extension in the future too. He's a good puck mover, top 40 in possession exits, top 25 in blocked passes, top 20 in denial zone or defensive zone denial rates. He wins battles and rebounds at a high rate from Mike Kelly. So again, breaking down those things, all of those stats are in his own zone. In the defensive zone, he's a guy that loves to break passes away. He loves to get out of the offensive zone with his skating and great overall fluidity. He's a player that for Boston, I think, checks a lot of the boxes, and he still can play physical too, although that's not his bread and butter like a Ben Sherratt might be. But at the same time, he's a guy that can be physical when he needs to, but mostly is a smart defensive guy that just really stays in his own zone perfectly and stays in his own lane. He'll be a guy that you don't notice as much as Charlie McAvoy, but that's not exactly needed. For the playoffs, I think Hampus Lindholm is an excellent addition, even if still with him, the Bruins might not win the cup. Now, when this deal was fully announced, I was pretty ready to go against it on Boston's side, mostly because we hadn't heard anything about a contract extension. But if there is an extension there for Hampus Lindholm, I think personally this could be a decent deal for Boston. Now, at the same time, I don't know how competitive they'll truly be at the top for as long as they are. With Patrice Bergeron being a UFA, it makes sense timeline-wise for him to even be a rental. But at the same time, extending him is huge, and it makes a lot more sense for the Bruins to get and offer this type of return for Anaheim if they are going to extend him long term. But personally, either way, for Anaheim, this is a slam dunk move to make with Hampus Lindholm reportedly not really wanting to sign there long term, or at least Anaheim not agreeing to sign him long term. It feels like personally to get this type of exchange, get a first round pick, 2 seconds, get a decent defensive prospect in Urho Vakanainen. To me, that is quality GM work by Pat Verbeek, and with his first true huge hockey deal, he's doing pretty well for himself, and I think that's setting up the Anaheim Ducks a lot for their future. And with Hampus Lindholm eating up a bunch of minutes on the penalty kill and being a top 4 defenseman, I think on Boston's side with a contract extension, this doesn't look like the absolute worst deal in the world. But I will say, personally, I think Anaheim wins this deal with the amount of available assets they're able to get back, and also getting second round picks in 2023 and 2024 is especially important. For me, I'd say a winner is Anaheim, but at the same time for Boston, Lindholm I think is an amazing fit and will automatically play well, I think, in the Bruins system and will translate well as well coming into this year's NHL playoffs. And with the Ducks already getting Nick Delorier for a third-round pick in Minnesota, for me personally, I feel like the Ducks are setting themselves up for a pretty big win of a trade deadline. Already with that, and now the Hampus Lindholm exchange, they could get even more for Rickard Rakell too and add on to that great future that they are building. But now we go on to the biggest one, the biggest trade, Claude Giroux to the Florida Panthers. Again, I was planning to just make a Hampus Lindholm deal and have that as the only video, but of course the Florida Panthers and Flyers had different plans, with a huge trade involving a first-round pick all the way in 2024 and much more. Now, I don't want to say much more because there isn't really that much more, but in terms of actual quantity, there is some here for Philadelphia. When it comes to the actual trade itself, per Frank Saravelli, the Florida Panthers will, of course, get Claude Giroux, who will also have 50% retained on his deal, just like Ben Chiarot was coming from Montreal. And they will also exchange to the Philadelphia Flyers a 2024 first-round pick, a 2023 third-rounder, and prospect/NHL roster player Owen Tippett. Now, this is an interesting one because we originally did not think that Florida was going to give away a first-rounder because they didn't have one in 2022, and they didn't have one in 2023 with the Ben Chiarot deal. But they're going to trade their pick all the way in 2024 to make this deal happen. And if we have not confirmed already that Bill Zito is going for it, this man is going for it. He is trading a pick through 2 years ahead of time to make this Giroux trade happen. And we got a lot of speculation over the last little bit that for the Flyers and the Panthers, although a deal was likely to happen, they were still pretty far off in what the trade details would look like and what Philly would get back. But it does look like Florida eventually turned around, and I think most of that is because of that first round pick in 2024. I'm willing to believe that originally Florida wasn't going to give away that first, but now that they needed to make that deal happen, it feels like that first eventually came into it as a necessity. And honestly, Claude Giroux being added to that top six, that already nasty offensive core, is going to make them even scarier in round one. This Atlantic division is insane, and I don't know how it keeps getting better. Now, the biggest thing for me with Claude Giroux is his versatility. At age 34, he can play all forward positions. This year, in 57 games, he has 18 goals, 24 assists for 42 points. And in Florida's top six, those statistics are just going to go higher and higher. He can play on that first line right wing. He can play as a center. He can do whatever Florida wants him to do. He can be on that power play as well and just be a great leader force on that Florida team. Although he definitely won't have as good of a chance of winning the Cup as he would in Colorado. At the same time, in Florida, he'll definitely help them potentially get past the first round in the first time in forever and hopefully bring them some playoff success. We'll see what happens, but in my opinion, when it comes to the forward fit, I think although it's a plethora of riches for Florida, at this point, you might as well go for it, especially acquiring Ben Chiarot and now Claude Giroux on the forward group. Now, going back to that trade package and what Philly gets in this deal, it's pretty interesting to me because although they get a first-round pick, it's all the way in 2024. And for me personally with Philadelphia, if they're going in a more rebuilding direction, let's say, a first-round pick, although in 2024 is very nice to have, it's not exactly ideal for them. And the rest of the package leaves some to be desired. I mean, a 2023 third-rounder isn't exactly going to be this magic piece in the rebuild. And Owen Tippett, although I do like him as a potential piece, I don't really see him being more than just a fine scoring middle six-winger at best. He's a pretty big group of magic beans right now, and for Philadelphia, although we pretty much knew that this trade package was going to be underwhelming, to see it be this underwhelming is pretty sad. Yes, they do get a first-round pick, but it's a long time away, and if it doesn't hit, then it's going to be really disappointing for the Flyers to get all just that for a player like Claude Giroux, who is so pivotal in their franchise, is really going to suck looking back on it. Now, for me personally, Philadelphia is in a pretty interesting position because trading Claude Giroux, you'd think they'd be totally rebuilding, but they just re-signed Rasmus Ristolainen to a multi-year contract, alluding to the fact that they might still want to be a competing team pretty soon, which for me personally would be pretty foolish. For me, I feel like Philadelphia should just decide to bite the bullet and rebuild at this point. Now, especially not having your captain in Claude Giroux for the long term, I feel like this would be the perfect opportunity and a perfect excuse, really, to go in a more retooling and rebuilding direction. But it feels like for Philadelphia, they want to go half and half, still be a rebuilding team while also contending, and we've seen how many times that's worked in the NHL, practically 0 times. And for me, Philadelphia really needs to go in a certain direction and stick with it. If they want to keep contending, It's not going to work, but they can try. But if they go in the rebuilding direction, especially with these next couple of drafts looking fantastic, I feel like it would have been a perfect opportunity to go in that direction. We'll see what Philadelphia does after this, but it feels like this might be the only big trade they make, which I think is wasted potential for a Flyers trade deadline that could have been way more exciting and interesting going into the future. And I just gotta say this right now. Again, although I do like Owen Tippett, I don't think he's gonna be a true needle mover, and he's not gonna make this Flyers team immensely better and even close to what Claude Giroux would bring. Although I think the opportunity in Philadelphia could be pretty strong for Owen Tippett. I just think overall, getting a first-round pick all the way in 2024 is pretty lackluster. You get a prospect and a player that's pretty big magic beans, and you only get a third-round pick on top of that. It's definitely disappointing for the Flyers to trade their captain after all this time and only get that back. Obviously, there could be some more moves to still come, but personally, I think the biggest winner in this trade is absolutely Bill Zito, and especially not that Atlantic division. We've already seen Tampa load up with Brandon Hagel, we're now seeing Boston load up with Hampus Lindholm, and now we're seeing Florida load up with both Ben Sherrod and Claude Giroux, both big additions on that defense and forward group. So personally right now, the Atlantic might be just the absolute worst division to be in if you want to win a round at this point. It's going to be amazing, and it's going to give us some amazing playoff matchups for sure, but at the same time, for all these teams, there's only going to be one team coming out of it, especially in the Eastern Conference Final, so we'll see who that is. Right now, Florida could be one of those teams, and they definitely strengthen their chances of getting there with this Giroux trade. Personally, to only give up a first-round pick, a third, and a player you had in the AHL this year for a decent amount of it, for a guy like Claude Giroux who can help you so much in that top six, it's a slam dunk move to make and another decent deal for Bill Zito in his time in Florida. So to recap the two major deals of today, the Hampus Lindholm going to the Bruins, I think personally the Ducks did a pretty good haul there, and I think they will win this trade, but for the Bruins, you had a potential top pairing D-man who will eat minutes and be fantastic for them come playoff time, so I think both teams could win in their own respects. And then going on to this Claude Giroux deal, I am so sorry for all Flyers fans out there. You guys deserve way better than what this team has been able to give you. Hopefully they show us some sort of identity and some sort of direction. Until now, or until then, the Florida Panthers will be a much stronger playoff contender, adding a brilliant player in Claude Giroux who will help them so much. I mean, just the playmaking ability on Florida's top six is going to be so key for their success, and come playoff time, I think Claude Giroux is going to do some major things for the Florida Panthers. We'll see what happens, but I'm going to say in that deal, Florida is the winner. But that'll be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Comment down below, which teams do you guys think win these deals? Anaheim or Boston, Florida or Philadelphia? And what do you think of these two mammoth NHL trades? Let me know all your thoughts down below. Share this video with your friends, get the news out there, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, and goodbye.